Well, it's a great privilege to be here this morning. And I'm blessed, and I'm sure you're going to be blessed. I see some smiles. It's something that seems like very scarce nowadays. Now, I've been reading on a study about smiling. And they found that people think of you more intelligent if you smile. Did you get that? So I want us to try this morning. And by the way, if you don't do this, you might find yourself being looked at very dumb if you don't do this. So just turn to the person next to you and give them a great big smile and say to them, "Am I looking smart?" Just do that. Just go to the person next to you. Am I looking smart? Fantastic. In this sessions today, we're going to look at 4 presentations that I believe could be life-changing. And we're going to look at this morning at hypertension, that is high blood pressure, a major big problem in our society. We're going to look at our next session, we're going to look at heart disease. Now, I want you to look at this very important word before we look at the term heart disease. What does it say? Goodbye. Goodbye heart disease. Goodbye hypertension. This afternoon, and by the way, try and not miss any of these because they really build on each other. I'm going to try and not repeat, certain things, and so you will get the bigger picture if you would attend all of them. I might also say that, we don't have the time in only the few sessions we have today to look at all the other lifestyle diseases like arthritis and cancer, and they're all causing havoc. We don't have the time. But the principles that we're going to share with these is the principles we will apply to those diseases as well. So, we've grown up with the allopathic idea that, you're going to deal with this one in this way, and you can deal with that one in that way. And there's a basic principle that would actually make a difference with all of them. Yeah, we're going to use a little bit of a different protocol here and there, and the intention with this session is not to go into those protocols at all. So this afternoon we're going to look at diabetes, and that is causing serious havoc in the world, around the world. More and more people are diagnosed with diabetes. And then our last session at 5 this afternoon, we're going to look at goodbye obesity. And it's actually a common denominator between all of these. So we find that people that are obese, they do have a much higher risk of any of these diseases, and we will show you why that is the fact. Now, today we're going to talk about, and at this session we're going to talk about goodbye hypertension. And I must say, this is the silent killer. It is the silent killer. Silent because you could suddenly get a heart attack like that without any warning. But the problem is, and it's the problem of millions of others, is that they don't know that they have some things that would actually show that they are going to get a heart attack. And that is something like hypertension. High blood pressure or hypertension is one of the most widespread health problems of the 21st century. It's such a lot of people that are struggling with this. I believe in our audience today, there are a number of people that are on the medications and are on treatment for this issue. And we see worldwide there's about 600 million people suffering from high blood pressure. And this is not the newest stat that I'm giving you. There's about 3 million of these that die every year of hypertension and hypertension-related problems. This is by the World Health Organization, by the way. 2014 study revealed South Africa has the world's highest rate of high blood pressure amongst those 50 years and older, as compared to people in many other countries. And we find that 78% of people in South Africa, 50 years and older, is diagnosed with hypertension. So what we are saying is that most of you sitting here will develop high blood pressure by the time you get to 50. And I think that is scary. That is really scary. Do most cases of hypertension just happen? Is it just something that happens? Is it something like, my father was hypertensive and my mother was hypertensive, and that's maybe the reason why I am? Well, I must tell you, I was under this delusion for a long time when I was diagnosed with cancer when I was only 34 years old. And they went and they looked at our family history, and they find my dad, he died at 43. I was only 18 years old. He died at 43 of cancer. My aunt, his only sister, died in her early 50s of cancer. And so, the road forward for me is I'm going to die of cancer. And when we look at, genetics, this is it. I want to state today that if that was the pure fact, then I should not be here today. So there is different and other factors that we have to keep in mind. And this is the intention of this programs today, is to show, guys, there's a different picture of maybe what you have been exposed and I've been exposed to up to now. Is there specific reasons or causes why we have these real problems in our society? Because our society, if you go around, if you go knock on doors in your community, you would find every home there would be somebody that would have one of these diseases that's on this logo. Every home, and we've done that. I've done this surveys in many parts of our country, and you would go from home to home and you would find every home has a burden of these things. So high blood pressure can attack people at any age, from any color, any creed. All of us could get it at some point. And I want you to know, note this study, a 2006 study in Alexandria, Johannesburg. This is our country, people. This is Johannesburg. And 49 children aged 9 to 14 years old, 16% of them were found hypertensive. So, in years back, it was like, it's the old age disease. It's something that would happen when you get older. But we now find that young people, and you can see 16%, it was just a small little study, that is a real problem. Now, people with hypertension, they often don't have any symptoms. So you might have a high blood pressure, you don't know about it. Half of the people just don't know that they are hypertensive, that they have a high or a raised blood pressure. And we find that only 1 out of 8 people have their blood pressure controlled by treatment. Only 1 out of 8. A little bit of an old stat. The newest that I get is like 1 out of 10 got it sorted. So half don't know it, and those that know it, only 1 out of 8 to 1 out of 10 is actually controlling it. Now, the question is elevated blood pressure of much significance? So if you get you take your blood pressure and it's just a little bit higher, is it significant? What would you think? Is it significant? Absolutely, absolutely. People, I want you to know, if it's just a little bit raised, it means you've got an 8 times higher risk of getting a stroke. And it is something that people die of today. My grandmother, and she was a good old age of about 70, 78. She died of a stroke. It was just one shot, one stroke, and she was gone. You've got a 3 times higher risk of a heart attack. People, I want you to know that you've got a 5 times higher risk of heart failure if you are hypertensive. Persistent high blood pressure can also lead to irreversible damage of the kidneys, of the pancreas, and the retina of the eye. And you could just understand it's so simple. We've got these little fine capillaries in our eyes, and when the pressure's too high, they just pop. And it means that people, they can't see. It is the silent killer. Hypertension is known as the silent killer. Slowly, it can destroy our organs without a person even knowing it. This is really serious. Now, the nursing homes, the cemeteries, I believe, is full of people, many people that just had a little bit of high blood pressure. Just a little bit of high blood pressure, but they are there, planted there because it was neglected. So do you know your blood pressure? Do you know it? I mean, this is the question. Do you know if you are perhaps hypertensive? Now, I want us just to give you an idea of what this blood pressure thing is about, and we need to know what is it to understand if you've got high blood pressure. Blood pressure is the pressure of the blood inside of our heart and inside of our blood vessels, our arteries. And it means that the higher number when they take it is the pressure while the heart is pumping. So the moment your heart is pumping, so if you would take your pulse and you hear the pulse going, that's when your heart is pumping, and that high is the pressure under which your heart is pumping. Then we get a low, and normally the normal blood pressure is 120/80. So when it comes to 80, that's when the heart rests. So, it means that there should be much less pressure when your heart is relaxed. If we find, this is why we are encouraging people, when you look at it, that lower amount, that the lower count on your blood pressure, that should be lower than the high count, because at the rest pace it should be lower. So when you've got 140/90 or anything above, we would say, okay, this is hypertensivity. This means that consistently, if it's higher than this, you are a high blood pressure sufferer. And we need to look at this. So the ideal is 120/80. And anything above this is associated with being too high. So what causes blood pressure to go up? What causes my blood pressure to go up? And I think we need to know this. Now, approximately 90% of hypertension cases may be related to personal lifestyle habits. We look at it as mother had it, grandmother had it. We say, no, guys, let's look further. Let's look further. There must be something more than that. The following lifestyle factors have been repeatedly shown to increase a person's risk of having hypertension, and that is obesity. Now, it's very simple. We think that when we talk about fat, it's just this little layer, this blob of fat extra, but you guys need to know, we've got a live body, a live organism. And so there's blood vessels that needs to go there even to the fat. And so that just causes my blood vessels just to expand all the time, and the pressure will then raise. That will happen. People 20% or more overweight are 5 times more likely to have some high blood pressure. Another one is the high intake of refined salts. And around the world, high blood pressure is uncommon in nations that use less salt. We find, for instance, with the Japanese people, very high cases of hypertension because they've got a high salt intake in their diet. Yes, half of the adult population in Japan has hypertension. But they're not the only people who have the problem. There's many countries that we see this. The States, we've got, and the reason why I mention the States, because we've got a lot of stats on there. What I've learned in my research is that when we talk South Africa, comparison to other countries, we can compare it well to the States. What I do need to tell you is that in some stats, we are worse than the States. So I want you to know when they talk about the States, and it's always bigger there, when it comes to these stats, we are bigger. There's something that we are bigger, than the States. Statements from the National High Blood Pressure Education Program makes mention of this. Another one is smoking. And this is why we're so glad for those that have stopped smoking. And I'm so proud of those that actually took this project and ran with it to help people to stop smoking. Because we see that the moment you smoke one cigarette, within 30 minutes, your pressure is raised. And it will be up there for quite a while. So if you are, smoking quite a few a day, your blood pressure is going to be raised. And if you would take the blood pressures of those that are coming on the program and were on the program, you would find their blood pressures are raised. And that is the fact. Alcohol and caffeine would do the same thing. So when you have an intake of these substances, you will have a raised blood pressure level, and it may cause up to a 5 to a 15% of all cases of hypertension. Just one glass of alcohol per day is necessary to cause a significant blood pressure rise. The same is with caffeine. So 5 to 6 points rise in caffeine. And this is just on the little bit of research that we have. And then plugged arteries is another big problem. And it's just like, having a pipe, and it's now got all blocked up with rust or whatever, and we've got a diet that is really high in cholesterol and so on. It makes that arteries thinner than it should be. And by the way, we've got some other issues that you'll start hearing me talk about today, is where there's cholesterol buildup, and then we've got this chronic inflammation systems in the body. This cholesterol gets hardened, and it actually hardens the artery walls. And the elasticity of our arteries, that would help to control blood pressure. But now that not happening, it's now restricted, it's hard, the pressure builds up. And this is the reason why we find general population, their blood pressure is much higher than it should. And then physical inactivity. We used to get up and change the volume of our television. Now we sit and we control it. Am I right or wrong? We used to go to the gate and open the gate for the visitors. Now we press the button and the gates open themselves and people come in. That we walked to the shops and we bought our things. Now we drive there with our car and we park it and we walk into the shop. And we try and park as close as we can to the entrance, so that we don't have to walk so far. And so this is the problem. Physical inactivity is also associated with elevated blood pressures. And then stress. And let me tell you, stress is not getting less. We've got all these gadgets. We've got all these Wi-Fi networks and everything to make life easier, but they don't always work the way we want to, and it builds stress, and it builds up more stress. Am I right or wrong? And we've all got more cars because, we've got more money, and life is more relaxed. And the problem is, with all the traffic and all the smog and everything, especially in the cities, what I'm talking about. When you have to get into the city and there's high, and this is stress. It's building up. Our jobs are getting more stressful. Our experience in life is getting more stressful. We're dealing with so much more things that just makes this pressure just build up. And then there's very little symptoms. Here is 1 or 2 symptoms that you might have if you've got, very, very high blood pressure. You might have a headache. But even that, very seldom that you would get a headache because of a high blood pressure. Weakness and dizziness. That's another, it could be, a sign, but it's not very reliable. It could be anything else. And then your heart beating hard, you've been jogging and then your heart, but now you're just walking and your heart is beating hard. That could be a sign. Blurred vision, it could be a sign. But people, I want you to know that most people don't know that they've got high blood pressure. What can we do to treat it? What can we do to treat it? What can we? If I'm now diagnosed with high blood pressure, what can I do? If you would go to your medical doctor, what do you think? What is he going to do? He's going to prescribe you some medication to bring down the blood pressure. Now, is it stabilizing the condition that causes the blood pressure? No, it's not. It's just bringing that very seriously high blood pressure a little bit down. That's what it's going to do. The past few years have produced an avalanche of new drugs for blood pressure. There's an avalanche. I mean, I get people at the lifestyle centers and they bring, these packets and these boxes and these bags full of medicine, and they would most of them are on 3 or 4 different medications for high blood pressure. They may produce some prompt results, but people, that's a quick fix. And it's not a lasting fix. We find that there's some side effects. It causes a lot of problems. And a closer look at hypertension leads us to look at this and realizing that medication, there's some disturbing facts that you need to know about this. Drugs is not the cure for high blood pressure. It's not the cure. And many doctors that refer people to our lifestyle center says, you know what, I've done the emergency thing, but you need to help people to change their life so that overall that could be better. Are you with us? Guys, I want you to know that in some cases the medication needs to be taken for life. And they've got unpleasant side effects. Both patients and medical doctors are increasingly dissatisfied with the drug approach to this lifestyle problem. And we have to look at it from a different point of view. There's symptoms of very, very high blood pressure. Now we said, this is serious. If I've got a headache because of high blood pressure, it is really this serious. And this is the list that you've got on the screen there at the moment. Hypertension, the normal protocol is if you go off the blood pressure medication, your hypertension returns. Right or wrong? So you go off it, and by the way, I would never tell people go off your medication. I'm not a medical doctor, so I wouldn't tell you use medication or stop medication. I'm not there. But you might end up and end your life by taking that medication. I want you to know that you should not take yourself off medication. So if you decide, I want to take a different route, there's a lot of side effects to this that I don't like, you need to do this in cooperation with your medical doctor. And there is natural things that we can and we will advise you to do that could make a big difference. People, I want you to know that medication causes a decrease of your body supply of vital minerals like potassium. So we need to keep that in mind when we start using this. It can cause weakness. It can cause leg cramps, a lot of the side effects of these medications. Tiredness, raised blood sugar levels. Now you've got another problem. You see, now my blood sugar levels goes up, what do? I go back and I find the doctor prescribing another medication to get my blood sugar stabilized. And then that would have side effects. And, this is the reason why we've got these bags full of medication and we're really not getting to the point where we need. And it causes impotency with especially men. When we talk about beta blockers, and I'm just mentioning some of the medications that we normally use, it causes insomnia. So when I've got now sleeping disorder, what do? I go and get a medication to help me to sleep. And then I get cold hands and feet. And then, we get something to really advance our circulation to cover up that symptoms. And then we've got tiredness, and we find depression, and we get something more to help me out of this condition. Slow heartbeat. And you can see this is a whole domino effect that we see. Some people even have symptoms of asthma and impotency on beta blockers. Then there's another medication that we might use to get our blood pressure down, and that is calcium channel blockers. And it might cause palpitation. Now, by the way, it's not like every case when you use this medication, this is going to be the result. That is the likely things that you would have. Swollen ankles. Now you've got swollen ankles. Now, we call that what? Water retention. Okay, so now what do we do for the water retention? Yes, I use a water pill to sort that out. Okay, you see the domino effect that we have. And then we sit with constipation. And so what do I do with constipation? I get something to make things work properly or better. And yeah, it's really a big problem. And then we sit with headaches. And there's a whole arsenal of things that we do then. And then we might sit with dizziness. And we might sit with, here is the ACE inhibitors. I get skin rashes. So now I get ointments to cover up the skin rash. And loss of taste. And this is hard, If you love the taste of food and now all of a sudden you can't really taste the food. Chronic dry, hacking cough. That's a side effect of ACE inhibitors. Kidney damage. Long-term use, this is what we find. I want us to understand this whole blood pressure thing this morning. And there's some studies that show that there are lifestyle factors that hinder natural elasticity of our artery walls. I just mentioned that earlier. And that causes us, our arteries, not to be able to stretch and recover, and our blood pressure builds up because it's hard, it's solid. It's like a pipe that was, like a balloon, and now it's like solid, steel. Your blood pressure can be sky high, you can't feel it, you're feeling quite all right. Okay, so I'm sharing some facts with you guys. A fact is, you might feel quite okay, but your blood pressure might be very high. Fact, there are no signs and symptoms that are specific to raised blood pressure. And so this is why it's called the silent killer. And I'm really encouraging you as you sit here. It's something you need to take cognizance of and saying, listen, I need to go and look, at my blood pressure and see where it is. And I'm not just going to take it once. I'm going to take it, a few times over a period of time to just see, am I on the standard? Am I where I should be? And do I have a raised blood pressure? Other health problems give similar symptoms. So just keep that in mind. There's some warning signals. You can't diagnose hypertension based on how you feel, people. It's not like, I'm not feeling too good now. It must be the high blood pressure. No. It could be something else. It's often diagnosed too late when blood pressure was too high for a long time. And, it causes serious lifestyle crises. Sometimes, like headache and blurry vision, can make you guess that you have high blood pressure. So don't take those high blood pressure things and say, okay, I've got no dizziness, so it's not high blood pressure. I want you to go and get it checked. It is important. People, some more warning signals. Usually symptomless disease can damage your arteries. It can damage your heart, your organs, and you're not even going to know about it. One day you're going to get certain pains, they're going to do MR scans, and they're going to say to you, listen, there's a problem in your kidneys. And it might be that you've had some high blood pressure over some time. Don't leave it untreated. It will happen if you would leave it untreated. Now, there's some other possible warning signs. Dizziness, nosebleed. You never had a nosebleed, but now you've got a nosebleed. It could be something else. And I don't want you to go out here, nose bleeding, I've got hypertension, I want you to just make sure what is your condition. Shortness of breath. Normally you've got a good breath, now all of a sudden. It could be that there's a virus in your lungs. I mean, it's not necessarily going to be hypertension. Tingling and numbness in your legs and your arms. That could be a sign. what it can do if left untreated. So if I don't look after this, what can happen? Well, it can lead to angina. It can lead to heart attacks. Heart disease, congestive heart failure, a stroke, we mentioned that. Kidney damage, failure, and a lot more cases about that is reported nowadays. Loss of eyesight, I explained to you what happens there. And then erectile dysfunction. And this is a big problem, and I see many cases of these from them saying, things are just not working as it used to, and, what can we do? It is clear that having hypertension carries serious risks. And, some of the main factors that would cause hypertension is some of the things that we got used to over a period of time, and we take this for granted. We are saying, everybody uses this is not a problem. I want you to know that if we would say that, then I might say might be the reason why everybody, and I put that in the brackets, is struggling with hypertension. And that is things like coffee, tea, energy drinks, Coca-Cola. They all give you that short-term feeling of wakefulness, of energy, but really causes havoc in your system. Caffeine then causes a let-down feeling of fatigue and depression. And we've got this seesaw thing where you need another fix to make you feel better again. And so I have another one of these fixes, and then, I would have a dip again, and I need another fix. So some people so sensitive to caffeine that one drink early in the morning interferes with their normal sleeping pattern for that whole 24-hour cycle. One of the reasons why people have insomnia. According to the General Conference Nutrition Council, the effects of caffeine can be seen in adults who have drunk 1 to 3 cups of coffee. So you might say, okay, but I just drink 1 or 2 cups a day. That's not a problem. The fact is that there's a real challenge. A child drinking 1 caffeinated fizzy cool drink gets equivalent of an adult drinking 4 cups of coffee. And we overlook this. We give the pocket money to our kids to say, buy yourself a Coke at break time if you're thirsty. While we could encourage them, go and have some windpomp sherry, You don't know what that is. That is water. So, go and have that wind pump sherry. I mean, that would be much better. People, I want you to know that the heart beats stronger and eventually causes cardiac stress because of this socially accepted stimulants that we have in our society. I want you to know that our adrenal glands are overstimulated and excrete adrenaline unnecessarily. And then the day that I really need it, they are so tired they really cannot give what I need. And this causes a big challenge. It causes increased blood pressure. And you will see the fine print there on the screen, and you would notice, we've got reliable sources where we find this. Caffeine increases the stiffness of my artery walls. So this is one of the reasons. It's not only the chronic inflammation that causes the stiffening of my arteries. It is also things like caffeine. So it will raise my blood pressure levels. I need to know it's going to happen. As little as 1 cup of coffee can cause a temporary increase in stiffness of artery walls for those with normal blood pressure. And this is why at our Breathe Free program, we taught our candidates and saying, guys, even 1 cup of coffee can set you back in smoking again because it's a gateway drug. So the moment it kicks in, remember the thing like nicotine, caffeine, heroin? Are you with me? They're all cousins. They're all family. Now, there's some other causes of temporary high blood pressure, and it might just be your bladder is full. Okay, so, when your bladder is full, don't go and take your blood pressure then. Rather go and empty and then take your blood pressure. It could be a simple thing like you've got pain. So, you've got a back pain, take blood pressure, it will be raised. So pain can cause that to happen. I want you to know that that stress could do that. And a simple thing like a chair massage can make a big difference. We've seen this so many times at our public health expos where people come in for a full evaluation, and you get to the sunshine booth where we do their blood pressure, and we find the raised blood pressure. And we send them from there to the chair massage. They had a chair massage, and they go back, and we take their blood pressure again, and it would be nice and normal. So, you know, it could be stress. Now, the real cause, people, I want to tell you now, I'm giving you the newest science. The newest research that we have now is inflammation. Inflammation is no longer seen as just a painful symptom of infection of a physical injury. You know, when we think infection, what do you think? What do you think? Sore, red, swollen. Are you with me? I want you to know that we find now that most of the diseases that we struggle with today, but most of the lifestyle diseases, is because of systemic inflammation, chronic inflammation in the system. So it's increasingly acknowledged or recognized as a leading cause of a wide range of our lifestyle diseases, and it's showing there is a potent inflammation linked to heart disease, and to hypertension, and to diabetes, and to cancer, and stroke, and Alzheimer's. And the general population is not aware of this. We're not aware of it. And what dictates this is the way we live, the way we eat. So inflammation essentially consists of 4 symptoms, people, that can be found in our bodies. Warmth, it means redness, it means swelling, it means pain, and those things would be inflammation. But whenever you feel and see these symptoms, you will recognize inflammation, but it happens inside. A burn, a tummy ache, a sore muscle, toothache will all have inflammation present. Those are just the things that you could see, but there's many areas that you can't see. Inflammation gives you symptoms of a cold, of flu, chronic fatigue syndrome, measles. It's directly linked to this inflammation, and a normal inflammation is most essential to body health and healing. Listen to that. It is essential to body healing. A healthy body will shut down at the symptoms when healing is taking place. So those symptoms will come up, and it will be a good sign because the body is busy fighting whatever the problem is. But now we find with abnormal or chronic inflammation, we find various reasons. Normal inflammation does not shut down properly. You probably will not be feeling any symptoms, but harmful, damaging chemicals are being excreted into your system. And there's a lot of havoc that's caused by that. One will present with a disease that will probably be tied to their genetic weakness, whereas another will present in a different disease. So it's not in everybody, it won't be the same. It will be your genetic switches that might be switched off, that should be on protective. And this is what we see nowadays. So, but if we could live long enough, we will all have all of these diseases at the end of the day. And this is really where it comes to. So inflammation that does not go away is a problem. It's a problem. And many of us, we don't know that there is this inflammation happening in our system. So chronic systemic inflammation works at below pain threshold, and its chemicals affect your entire body. It's not going to just affect 1 or 2 of our organs. It's going to affect the whole body, all the systems. And where the symptoms appear can be different to different people. Yours would blow up in this way, mine will blow up in that way. So I might be hypertensive, you might get cancer, and vice versa. I want to leave this picture with you, saying to you that inflammation affects all the body systems, everything. And what we do not realize is that the general population is actually struggling with this. In the past, when I felt sick, what did I do? Question. When I felt sick, what would I do? Yeah, I would go and lie down. Just think of, a couple of years back. You would go and lie down until you feel better. But today, we are vertically sick. We're just using things to keep us going. Where your body needs sometimes you to just go down. Now, there's another reason, and a real cause for raised blood pressure or hypertension, and that is raised insulin levels. And this is a big problem. And I want to really remind you, don't miss the next session, and don't miss the next session, because we're going to expand on this. I don't have the time now to expand it now, but I want you to know that insulin is essential to live. I mean, we need insulin. But too much in the arteries causes damage. And we are dictating that there are too much because of the way we live. So we've got this basic, shoot up of our sugar levels, and it comes down crashing, and we need another fix, and we fix it up with another fix, and that could be a high sugar fix, or it could be a high fat or a high sodium fix, and it just soars up, and it comes crashing down again. And that causes, every time it goes out of that norm, what happens? The system just pours insulin to try and stabilize us, and then there's too much because it comes down. You will never find that with certain lifestyle factors and lifestyle diseases or lifestyle good choices. So it starts acting as a free radical. It's actually, acting as an oxidant. The insulin that should be our friend becomes our enemy. And this is a big problem to hypertension. Insulin raised means inflammation, chemicals present. I want you to keep this in mind. Now, changes in the excess glucose causes my glucose to be changed into fat. And what happens when there's a fat increase? Yeah, I get more blessed. No, that's not the right word, eh? I just get bigger. I mean, this is it. I get bigger. Triglycerides, they are raised, and that is part of this whole fat problem. I always say to people, your tummy does not lie. You know that little choopy? It does not lie. I mean, you could say, I've got my blood sugars nice and stable, but that little choopy does not lie. It is showing a risk. People, I want you to know my HDL cholesterol, that is my good cholesterol, that should be helping me, that is lowered when the insulin is raised. And it actually increases my risk of heart disease and of cancer. And then there's sodium imbalances that we see. And that causes my blood pressure to go up. And these are things that we actually could control. We could control it. So what we see, the insulin is raised, over a period of time, and it's always raised. And if I have a diet where I have the seesaw of sugar levels, it would mean that my kidneys are going to be damaged at the end of the day. Damaged blood vessels, and that leads to heart disease, and that leads to eye and nerve damage. I've got a very good friend that's an eye surgeon, and yes, he's in practice now while he's using the same building as a diabetic clinic. They're using the same building because most of those people struggling with diabetes is the people that would have problems with their eyes. And the problem is the raised blood pressure as well. So shown to be start of nearly every chronic disease known to man: cancer, heart disease, diabetes, aging, arthritis, osteoporosis. We plainly put it in a certain basket in the past, and now we're saying, guys, we need to look at things like chronic inflammation. We need to look at things like my insulin levels. I cannot just avoid this. If I just do the standard small little thing, we're not going to have the same outcomes at the end of the day. 2 recent studies on how to live to 100 years old. I love these sort of studies. How to live to 100 years now. It might not sound too realistic to you because 100 is still very far for most of us. But how to live to 100 years and have a good quality of life. One consistent factor contributing to longevity is a low blood insulin level. So if you could keep that insulin levels nice and stable throughout your life, you could reach the 100 much, much easily than anybody else would. And it's really, very simple. We start looking at ways to fix this. People, I'm building some little foundations that we need to just expand on during the sessions to come. Breakfast is number one to get that insulin levels nice and stable. And you know what I find in my research? Most people in South Africa don't eat a good breakfast. When I ask people, do you eat a breakfast? Yes, I eat a breakfast. So what do you have for breakfast? Oh, I have a cup of coffee and I have a slice of bread. That's breakfast. And I want you to know that is the answer to an insulin level that's going up. And that would cause, what did we say? Blood pressure to go up. And open me up for a lot of other problems. So breakfast, we're saying, guys, a breakfast would be at least 3 fruits per day for breakfast. It would mean at least 3 grain whole breakfast. Whole grain porridge, for instance. It would mean, a slice of bread containing some protein, it could be even like simple as peanut butter. And you need to eat exactly the right amount for you. Don't eat like, your big brother. Or try and eat like your little sister. You need to eat what you need for the day. And you will find out what you need. What is it? It's a simple thing to know how much should I eat or not eat. Guys, the answer is not eating in between meals. So I eat a meal, and I must not be hungry before I get to the next meal. If I'm hungry, what does it mean? I've ate too little. If I'm not hungry when I come to the next meal, what does it mean? I've had too much, and so I have to just tone down a little bit. It's as simple as that, and that will give me that nice and slow release energy level that you see on the screen right now. So you will know when you are eating enough because you will feel hungry just at that meal. You will feel hungry. If you feel hungry before that, there's a problem. Guys, exercise is another way of fixing our raised insulin levels. We've never made this connotation in the past, where we say insulin and blood pressure is really going hand in hand. So we're saying exercise is one of those answers to this, and we find that high intensity training for 30 seconds, rest for 90 seconds, and repeat this 3 times. Don't just start this, right away, tomorrow, because I might be called and saying, Pastor, he's lying in hospital. He's had a serious problem because of the exercise that you prescribed. So I don't want you to just go and rush it now. We're saying ultimately we're going to have 30 seconds where I burst energy. So I push it. I run as hard as I can for 30 seconds, and then I relax for 90 seconds. I'm not stopping. I would just walk, and then I run again for 30 seconds, and I would stop and just do 3. Not for the start, people. You're going to do just a little bit faster for the first time around, and then a little bit faster for the next round. But ultimately, you can just push it as hard as you can. If you feel, okay, the heart is now it's going to pop out, then you just slow down and just 90 seconds, give it time to restore, and then you can push it again. People, I've now tested this myself. This is science that has been out for a while now, and I've been testing it myself, getting myself ready for things like the Argus and so on, cycle tour. And I find where it took me a certain amount of months to get there, I could get to a same sort of level within weeks. One advice I must give you when you go and do the Argus, it does not help for the bum. You have to do something for the bum because the bum still gets sore. You need exercise for the bum. I'm just mentioning that. So chronic systemic inflammation, we call it CSI. Fat cells are not just fat blobs, people. They are highly active and reactive cells in our body, one of dominant cause of chronic systemic inflammation. Fat cells, particularly those of tummy area, produce chemicals, pro-inflammatory cytokines, C-reactives proteins, and other circulation markers of inflammation. And they are there. So we are, and we're gonna build up to this, where we're gonna end this day and saying, guys, we need to look at our weight very carefully. So is there other alternatives to just medication? Do you think there's other alternatives? Let's just look at this quickly. Here are some of the things proven to be successful in lowering your high blood pressure. And I must say, over the last 17 years running lifestyle centers, we've had people coming in with hypertensive conditions, uncontrolled, and with days. And I must say, God is the healer. It's not something we do. God is the healer. But we're applying the principles. And I'm just basically giving you the principles. And in these sessions, I'm going to actually take out the little secrets out of my little pocket. And I'm going to share those secrets with you. And saying, what do we do in our lifestyle centers to help people with hypertension get stabilized very, very quickly? So here are some of the things. People, number one, we need to reduce our weight to our normal weight. So if I'm overweight, I need to start working at that. And it's not just about exercise. That's a very important factor, but it's not just about that. We're going to have to discipline ourselves when it comes to eating. And not only what we eat, but when we eat. All right? We are saying reduce your salt intake. I'm at the point where I say avoid refined salts. Avoid the table salts. If you need to use salt, and yes, we need to have salt because there's very important elements in there, and it will not be found in our refined table salts, rather go for something like the marine rock salt, where you would find that they've got at least 84 nutritional elements in it. And that's what's needed. So people want to have the salty taste, and they throw... I'm sitting with somebody the other day, and we're having a meal, and before they tasted the food, they said, salt, please. And before the person even tasted the food, added a layer of white layer on top of the food. And so that is part of our problem. So banning the salt shaker is a step in the right direction, I believe. So 25% of our sodium intake is the salt shaker. The other 75% is what we find in the food that's refined that we eat. That's why I'm not a very good promoter of refined foods. I don't believe there's too much good that you can buy off the shelves. And yes, so when we look at all the refined foods and all these fast foods, 75% of the salt we actually get in there. It's not something we see. It's not something I pour. It's not something that I control. And I need to be able to start looking at those uncontrolled things. So what we're saying is start reading labels. And these guys have become very clever. Go and look for sugar. They've got now 4, 5, 6, 7 different names for sugar. So you look and you see one of them because you recognize it, but there's 4 others that also indicate that there's other forms of sugar added. And we don't know this. So in our research we find, guys, we need to start reading labels because that could make a big difference. Yes, it's been estimated that literally millions of people with mild hypertension could normalize their blood simply by cutting their total salt intake to about 2 grams or less a day. And that accounts for about 1 level teaspoon. We are just having too much salt in our diet. Stop smoking. It's a very simple one. Stop smoking. And we've got programs to help people to stop smoking. Eat 1 cigarette leads to my blood pressure going up. And yes, avoid caffeine, avoid alcohol, because they would cause my blood pressure to go up. Reduce your fat intake. And it's not just the fat that I have on my meat. I mean, cheese is loaded. Basically, cheese is sodium and fat. It's a concentration of that. So that's something that I would recommend. Let's Let's reduce those high-risk things and rather go for high-fiber foods in our diet. This is an old story. I'm telling you nothing new. Eat an abundance of natural foods like whole grain products. Don't go for the refined stuff. Don't go for the shop stuff. Go and buy unrefined grains, and it's much cheaper. Go for salads. Go for beans. Go for lentils. Go for fresh fruits. These foods are all natural, and they're low in salt. They are low in fat, and they are high in fiber. It's really going to do you so much good. Fresh fruits. Fresh vegetables. Go for the colors. Go for the purples and the oranges and the reds and the yellows and the bright greens. You know, those things are loaded. Just look at this picture and look at the next one. You know, there's a big difference. Avoid fatty foods. Go for the natural fats. Go rather for, you know, the natural fats like your nuts. And I know what people say. They say, it's only the rich people that can eat that stuff, man. And I understand that, people, but you know what? We don't have to replace my 100 grams steak. And by the way, very little people eat 100 gram steak. I don't have to replace that with 100 grams of nuts. You know what we find? Science now tells us 4 almonds a day would be equal to that 100 grams of steak. 4 almonds a day. I mean, this is power food. So, and it's much, much less expensive if we would look at it from that point of view. So go for the natural oils. People say, you know, nobody in their life today can, you know, replace the sunflower oil with olive oil. It's too expensive. We just don't earn enough to do that. And people, I want you to know that we just need to look at it differently. I mean, I love chips. Who loves chips? French fries? You know what I'm talking about? Is there so little people loving chips? Let me try again. Okay, that looks better. Now, you know, I love chips, and I had this problem. You know, I can't eat chips from the shop because it was deep fried in oils that are really carcinogenic. And I've had cancer. I don't want to go that route again. So what do? And hey, my wife, she's excellent. She took this potatoes and she put it in a preheated oven after she's put 2 tablespoons of olive oil on it. Not bottles full, 2 tablespoons. Little bit of seasoning, preheated oven. And she would ask me, is it going to be slop chips today or is it going to be crispy? And I say, today it's going to be crispy, and she would just keep it in longer. And I would have my chips the way I want it, and the taste I wanted, and it's better than anything I've tasted. People, we need to think differently in this. We need to avoid all these especially refined meats. If there's one thing, and I'm not even going to talk about cancer, and I've been there, but remember, the principles I'm sharing is going to be the same. I want you to know that research now says, if you want cancer, please eat processed meats. Please eat it. You won't be disappointed. You're going to have it. Let me guarantee it. It's going to happen. So people avoid that. Avoid that. Try and avoid that in your diet. Go for legumes, the different varieties of legumes. They've got different colors and different shapes, and they've got different nutritional values. Go and play around with those different good tastes. That is that's a tick. That's where we should go. People, let's go for the whole grain stuff. Don't buy things from a shelf that's been tampered with. It must be in the package that God gave us. That will be a tick. And that will bring your blood pressure down. People say, what are you doing? For 12 years, we couldn't get my blood pressure stable. Within 4 days at your center, it's stable. What do? I'm giving you the secret. This is what we do. We put people on the program where this is what they get. And people, the result is just amazing. Go for whole grain bread. Don't go for just the brown bread. Don't go for the white bread. It's not going to do you any good. So go for the whole grains. And I'm so friendly today. I want to say, if you send me an email, I'll send you some recipes of making your own good bread. And it's something that I've tried and I've mastered. It's not something that somebody has done. So, we want to share those things with you. People, can hypertension be prevented? What do you think? Yes, it can. It can be prevented. Drink enough water. We're not drinking enough water. We're drinking other things because we don't like the taste of water. And so I'm just saying, people, you need at least 1.5 to 2 liters of water. In high humidity like we are now, you need that 2+ liters of water today. And that would keep you good hydrated. And that's going to keep your blood pressure. Remember, your blood, it can get thick and it gets thinner. And the more water, it's going to get thinner. It's going to bring down the blood pressure. So we need enough water in our diet. It can be prevented. People, high blood pressure can be prevented by just enough rest. We're not resting enough. When we're tired, what do? We go and get something to boost us to get something more done. So I would drink, and for the younger people that want to really boost, that's when Monster comes out. Or the Energade, or whatever you guys are drinking. Just to give me energy. No, I will get to the same point if I just rest. So just give your system a time to rest. Go and have a cat nap. And it might just be for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Have a cat nap. We need 7 to 8 hours sleep a night. The average person, I'm talking research now, the average person in South Africa does not sleep near to 7 to 8 hours per night. They sleep much less than that because we've got all these demands. We've got these programs we have to watch before we go to bed. Are you getting it? And this is our challenge. So, yes, people, what about cure? I want to tell you it's all in your hands. The ball is in your court. It depends largely on you if you're going to succeed in curing this problem. I want to tell you in closing, in summary, a healthy lifestyle is the answer. It is definitely the answer. You could use medicinal plants, and if you need more information, I don't have the time to go into more depth, but there's some medicinal plants that you could just introduce. We're not talking about medicine, people. We're talking about plants. You just add it to your diet. Make sure these plants are in your diet. Add it to your diet, and you will see some amazing things happen. Maybe that's the reason why Hippocrates said, many years back, he said, let food be your medicine and not medicine your food. We think totally wrong, I think. We've got a certain way that we've been taught how to do this. We just swallow something in the form of a tablet or capsule, and that solves the problem. And it really does not solve the problem. So, people, in summary, increase your physical exercise program. It lowers blood pressure. I want you to know that you could use water treatment. Now, this is something that we might use in our centers, and I'm giving it to you very simple. Very simple. It's very simple. It's easier for us to pop a pill and do this because we don't always have the energy, or we want to use the energy to go and do it. But you need to just get a basin. And when this person is hypertensive, get his feet into water, and we will have that water a little bit hot. Are you with me? Hot water at the bottom. And I'll put some ice blocks on the forehead, the back of the neck, and right here around the abdomen, tummy area, I would take a cloth and just rinse it in hot water, and I would put that around. So just, wet it, rinse it out, and wring it out, and put it around the tummy area, and this would just lower the blood pressure very, very quickly. It's amazing how quickly it will happen. So this is some of the things that we will do in emergency to just get somebody's blood pressure down. So you wrap it around the back over the kidney area to the front, and remember the water would be hot at the bottom, and I would what would I have here? I would have ice cold there, and so I just put the feet into the hot water at the bottom. I'll put this hot wringed out towel in the middle and the ice packs on the front, and my blood pressure would just come down. That's just an emergency thing. And just in 15 minutes, it's not going to take a long time. People, I tell you now, it's going to work faster than you would have when you swallow a pill. It will be faster. Simple like that. People say, how do you do this? I'm sharing the secrets with you. You can now help yourself and others to prevent high blood pressure. I wish I had the time to hear from you. Maybe we should create that time to say, what have you heard? What have you heard? What should we do? What have you heard? Very simple. What should we do? To keep the blood pressure down, to get the blood pressure down, and not to have the risks that we are running. People, reduce your stress. One of the major problems. It's a common denominator in all the diseases. When we go back and we do the research in cancer, stress was involved. When we go to heart attacks, stress was involved. When we look at diabetes, stress was involved. Very, very simple. Tension, stress, depression, major common denominator in life where we live. I believe this is the reason why God has created a rest every day. I mean, God is saying to us, 7 to 8 hours per day you need to sleep. I believe this is the reason why God created once a week, 1 day to rest. This is why He created the Sabbath. And by the way, it was not the Jews that created Sabbath. It was right there in the beginning in Genesis, saying, go and rest. This is a special day. We're not giving that rest. Guys, we need a monthly rest. We need a yearly rest. That is a circadian rhythm God has created. No man has created. God has created us with that circadian rhythm. While tranquilizers are the best solution some have to offer for stress, I want to tell you that trusting God has got a better solution to stress problems. And I found this over the years, working with people. Here's a beautiful verse that I want to leave with you before we end the session. And it's found in John 14, verse 27. And it says, peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. Not as the world gives, do I give to you. Do not let your heart be troubled, nor let it be fearful. You know, guys, we have to make this practical. I don't know about you, but when I look at the news, and by the way, I've made a choice not to have a television in my home, because when I switch on the television and I look at all the crisis in our world and the crisis in our country, then I get nervous. That's not good for my stress levels. And I've said to myself, I don't need that in my life. There's more things to worry about than that. And so I want to just encourage you guys, if you are looking at God as your answer, He says, do not let your heart be troubled. So when you look at these things, don't let it be troubled, nor let it be fearful. And we can get fearful when we look at how things are going chaotic in our world and in our country. I want you to know that we need to keep our trust in Jesus Christ. Are you with us? This is our only answer. This is the only answer. Remember, health is a matter of lifestyle. Lifestyle is a matter of choice. And the choice is yours. I'm not dictating to you what you need to do and what you should not do. Life is about choices. I'm giving you a better scope of choice today, and that is all I can leave with you. May God bless you as you go and apply these principles and see what a difference there could be, not for yourself only, but for those around you. Let's pray together. Gracious Father in heaven, what a kind, merciful God you are. Lord, this information you have given to us many, many years back. We have not applied it to our lives, and we're reaping the fruit of the decisions we've made. And we ask, Lord, that we would make this day a day of change in our lives. That as we start applying the principles we looked at, that we would see that you are the true God that always speaks the truth. Help us, Lord, to be our faith to be strengthened in you as we apply this and we see the differences that happen in our life. I pray that we would go out here enthused by the fact that you've got a plan, even in our disease conditions. Thank you for answering our prayer and for your presence. In your lovely name we thank you. Amen.